U.S. President Donald Trump has warned that a new AI chatbot from Chinese startup DeepSeek is a wake-up call for America's tech industry.
The release of DeepSeek AI from a Chinese company should be a wake-up call.
Nvidia, the company that makes chips to power AI, lost nearly $600 billion in value, the biggest one-day loss for a company in U.S. history.
The app has become the most downloaded free app in the U.S.
In January 2025, a small Chinese startup nobody had heard of dropped a single AI model onto the internet. And by Monday morning, $500 billion had been wiped off U.S. tech stocks.
The model was called DeepSeek R1. It matched the performance of America's best AI at a fraction of the cost, with chips Washington had banned China from using.
So the question we're asking today, did China just erase America's lead in AI? Or is that the wrong question entirely?
I'm Alex.
I'm Sara. Welcome to the Exchange Show.
Let's go back to where this started.
It is the latest source of tension between the United States and China. President Joe Biden is accused of weaponizing technology for imposing sweeping controls on sales of semiconductors to Beijing. What's behind this decision and how much is it down to politics?
In 2022, Washington made a massive bet. It imposed sweeping export controls on advanced semiconductors, blocking China from accessing the chips needed to build powerful AI.
The logic was simple. No chips, no AI. If you cut off the fuel, you stop the engine.
For about 2 years, it looked like it was working. American companies, OpenAI, Google, Anthropic, Meta, raced ahead. China's AI labs were visibly struggling with lower-grade hardware.
And then DeepSeek happened.
DeepSeek is a Chinese startup that says
A company founded in 2023, connected to a Chinese hedge fund called Highflyer, released a model in late 2024 that stunned the field. Then, in January 2025, they released R1, a reasoning model trained in 2 months for less than $6 million on chips that were generations behind what OpenAI was using.
$6 million.
OpenAI spends more than that on office snacks.
Approximately.
Yeah.
The point is, the entire assumption
That you needed billions in compute to build frontier AI was challenged overnight.
Walk me through what DeepSeek R1 actually did, because I want our audience to understand why this was such a shock.
So there's a set of standard tests, benchmarks, that the AI industry uses to measure how powerful a model is. Things like advanced mathematics, coding, scientific reasoning. When R1's results were published, it matched or outperformed OpenAI's O1 model on most of them.
OpenAI's GPT-4o and Anthropic's Claude Sonnet 3.5 on accuracy on wide-ranging tests, a subset of 500 math problems, an AI math evaluation, coding competitions, and a test of spotting and fixing bugs in code.
America's most advanced reasoning model at the time.
Right. And it did it openly.
Code was published for anyone to download and use.
Mark Andreessen, one of Silicon Valley's most influential investors, called it AI's Sputnik moment, a reference to when the Soviet Union launched the first satellite, and America realized it wasn't as far ahead as it thought.
The release of DeepSeek AI from
Donald Trump called it a wake-up call.
He did. And Nvidia, the company that makes the chips powering virtually all AI development, saw its stock drop nearly 17% in a single session. Around $500 billion in market value, gone.
Because if you can build world-class AI cheaply without the most powerful chips, you don't need to spend billions on Nvidia hardware.
AI for the fraction of a cost of what the latest American models have been doing. That is already hugely significant.
Exactly. The entire investment thesis underpinning the AI boom was suddenly changed.
But this didn't come from nowhere. China had been building toward this for years.
Chinese Communist Party actively lobbied against the Chips and Science Act that I've been pushing in the United States Congress.
It had. As of early 2025, China had approximately 1.67 million AI-related companies. Its government had set a formal goal in 2017 to become the world leader in AI by 2030. When export controls tightened, Beijing didn't give up. It pushed harder.
And DeepSeek itself wasn't even the most famous Chinese AI company. It wasn't on the top 50 list of Chinese AI firms in 2024.
Which tells you something important. DeepSeek wasn't the product of a massive state program. It was a lean, disciplined team that found smarter ways to use constrained resources.
Like necessity driving invention.
Precisely. When you can't buy your way to the answer, you engineer your way there. The export controls may have unintentionally forced China to develop more efficient AI methods that, once proven, anyone can use.
So the weapon Washington used to slow China down might have sharpened China's sword.
That's the uncomfortable argument.
Yes.
Okay, here's where I push back. Because not everyone agrees that China has actually erased the lead. What are the counter-arguments?
There are strong ones. First, benchmarks aren't everything. Some analysts argue that the US still holds a meaningful edge in the most advanced frontier models, the ones pushing the absolute limits of AI capability.
The ones that might eventually build AGI, artificial general intelligence.
Right. As of mid-2025, credible estimates suggested the US had roughly a 7-month lead over China in frontier model performance. That's not nothing. In AI, 7 months is a long time.
In the West, it was impressive, and I think it shows that the Chinese are very capable, the leading companies. I think companies like ByteDance actually, I would say, are the most capable. And they're maybe only 6 months behind, not 1 or 2 years behind the frontier. So I think that.
But DeepSeek's latest model, V4, released in April 2026, acknowledged that gap itself. Their own technical paper said they trail the most advanced US models by roughly 3 to 6 months.
They said it openly, which is either unusual honesty or sophisticated positioning, or both.
And there's the chip question. Some analysts, including the CEO of Scale AI, allege that DeepSeek may have had access to far more advanced hardware than they admitted, potentially 50,000 H100 chips stored before the export bans tightened.
My understanding is that DeepSeek has about 50,000 H100s, which they can't talk about, obviously, because it is against the export controls that the United States has put in place. And I think it is true that, I think they have more chips than other people expect, but also.
DeepSeek didn't respond to those claims. The evidence remains disputed, but the point stands. Even if their resource claims are exaggerated, R1 was a genuine engineering breakthrough. You can't fake benchmark results. Let's zoom out, because this isn't just about 2 companies or 2 governments. This affects how AI develops for everyone.
Generally on top of open source platforms, which is why open source is so important for business, because it allows an entire ecosystem to emerge on top of it. AI has benefits in all corners of industry, right? The platform for AI will need to be open source.
It does. DeepSeek released its models as open source, meaning anyone in the world can download, use, and build on top of them. That's a profound shift. A researcher in Nairobi, a startup in Sao Paulo, a university in Cairo, they now have access to frontier-grade AI for free.
Which is genuinely democratizing. Yes.
Yes. But it also creates risk.
Open models with no access controls can be used for anything, including building weapons systems, disinformation tools, or surveillance infrastructure.
Multiple governments moved quickly. Within weeks of R1's release, countries including the United States, Australia, South Korea, Italy, and Denmark introduced bans or restrictions on DeepSeek apps, citing data security and potential Chinese government access to user data.
So the same technology that opens AI to the world also opened
a security debate that governments are still fighting.
And for ordinary people, the practical question is,
what does it mean to live in a world where the most powerful AI tools might be built in Beijing, regulated in Beijing, but downloaded in your pocket anywhere on Earth?
So where does this leave us in May 2026?
The Stanford AI Index 2026 said Chinese companies have effectively closed the AI performance gap with their U.S. rivals. That's from one of the most respected academic institutions tracking this space.
China has actually closed the model performance gap, and that means that the quality of the models coming from China are becoming at a neck-and-neck pace with the United States.
At the same time, the U.S. hasn't stood still. GPT 5.2, Gemini 3.0, Claude, Opus, these are models that remain ahead of DeepSeek V4, by the company's own admission.
But the spending gap may actually be narrowing against the U.S. Chinese AI companies are being forced to list publicly earlier. They have a thinner investor base. But some analysts argue that constraint is accelerating commercial deployment, rather than just pure research.
As of June 5th, Minimax Group and Jipu AI will join the benchmark index, increasing its constituents to 93.
The wild card is chips. Washington just approved the export of Nvidia H200 chips to China, a policy reversal that alarmed many national security experts. If China gains access to better hardware, the gap closes faster.
China has approved its first batch of Nvidia's H200 artificial intelligence chips for import. Chinese firms have already ordered over 2 million H200 chips. It said the semiconductors would go to tech giants ByteDance, Alibaba, and Tencent.
And if it doesn't, if the chip controls hold,
then we're watching something remarkable.
A country proved that you don't need the best hardware to build world-class AI. That the bottleneck isn't silicon, it's ideas.
So has China erased America's AI lead?
On raw model performance at the frontier, not fully.
The US still holds an edge, probably 3 to 7 months. But on cost efficiency, accessibility, open source distribution, and the speed of the ecosystem, China has closed the gap in ways Washington didn't expect and hasn't fully answered.
And the question that matters most going forward might not be who's ahead today, but whose model of AI development the world adopts.
Optimistic about their chances for success?
When you say there, just expand a bit. I think the opportunity with AI is profound.
Open or closed, cheap or expensive, centralized or distributed.
That's The Exchange. That's the show. I'm Sara.
I'm Alex. Two sides, one truth.